Welcome to another Thoughts at 3 online assembly. My name's Teresa and I'm part of the schools team at Southampton City Mission. Normally we'd like to be visiting you in schools and doing assemblies and our Question of Faith RE days, but at the moment it's safer for us to be bringing these to you online. We've been doing a series on Christian values, or what we call the fruits of the Spirit. And these are things that the qualities that Christians believe it's good to grow in our lives. So we've already looked at love, at joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness and faithfulness. And today we're going to be thinking all about gentleness. So I'm going to be asking you a question, telling you a Bible story with a friend of mine, giving you a challenge, and then we'll have a time of reflection and a short prayer at the end. So my question for you today is, what is gentleness? When I say the word gentleness, what do you think of, or who do you think of? Is there a person who is like gentleness in action for you? Have a think about your answers, and you might want to pause the video here for a minute and talk about your ideas with some of the people that you're watching with. I wonder what answers you gave and what people you talked about. I've got my friend Scruff here. Say hello, Scruff. Woof. So we're friends, aren't we, Scruff? But, well, actually, I know sometimes I do leave you in a box for like months on end, or a cupboard or something, but when I get you out, I try to be gentle and kind and nice to you, don't I? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, but Scruff, what happens if somebody shouts at you? What do you do? Yeah, you want to run away and hide, don't you? Well, I don't blame you, because I want to do that too if somebody shouts at me. It doesn't help me to have a good friendship with that person, or to want to listen to them, or to get on well with them, does it? We need to learn to be gentle with other people. I wonder if some of you talked about being gentle with pets. You might have your own pets at home, or you might know other people's pets, or maybe you've been to a farm or a petting zoo where you get to hold them, and those tiny little rabbits or mice or guinea pigs. Animals get scared if we're rough with them, and we need to learn to treat them gently. The other thing I thought about when we were talking about gentleness is how gentle you have to be with tiny newborn babies. They're very fragile. They have these special soft spots on the tops of their heads where their skulls haven't fused together over the tops of their brains yet. And they're very helpless. All they can really do is cry and drink. And so they need their mums and dads to help them and to protect them and look after them. This is a photo of my grandson, Elijah, when he was just a few weeks old, and he's there with his dad and his 4 uncles. You see how tiny he is, and they had to learn to be very gentle with him until he grew big enough to play football with them and bounce on the trampoline. I'm going to tell you a story now about another Elijah, one in the Bible, and what happened to him. And Barry's going to come and help bring the story to life for us. Elijah lived in the country of Israel about 3,000 years ago. He was one of God's prophets. His job was to listen to God. And when he heard God speak, to tell the people of Israel what God was saying to them. But Elijah had had a hard time. An evil queen, Jezebel, was after him. Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. He ran into the wilderness and sat down under a tree and prayed.
Lord, take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors.
Then, exhausted, he lay down under the tree and fell asleep. As he slept, an angel of the Lord touched him and said, "Get up and eat." He looked around, and there, by his head, was some bread baked over hot coals, and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. As he slept, the angel came back a second time and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." So he ate and drank some more. Strengthened by that food, Elijah travelled for 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. When he got there, Elijah went into a cave and spent the night. God spoke to Elijah and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?"
I've worked really hard for you, Lord, but these people, they're not interested in following you. And now, they're out to get me.
The Lord said, "Go out onto the mountain and stand before me, because I'm going to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. God spoke to him again and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?"
I've worked really hard for you, Lord, but these people aren't interested in following you. They're really out to get me.
God gave Elijah instructions to tell two men that they'd been chosen by God to be kings of two countries, and to tell a man called Elisha that he had been chosen by God to take over Elijah's own work one day. Elijah did what God said, what he'd heard God speak to him. Sometimes in the Bible, God speaks in a big, loud, thunderous voice. Sometimes in a burning bush. But this time, God didn't speak in a loud shout, or in the powerful wind, or in the earthquake, or in the fire, but in the gentle whisper.
When I think of gentleness, I am reminded of this special box that I have. The reason being is that you need a gentle touch to open it. You can't just use force because it doesn't open the way you expect. So let me show you how to gently open this special box. Firstly, you gently slide along the front. Then you gently slide this outside piece so that you find the key. But that's not it. You then also have to gently push the box forward so that this front compartment slides down. That reveals the keyhole, and when you then gently twist the key, the box can open. Gentleness also reminds me of the way people talk to each other. I don't know about you, But I find if someone speaks very gently to me, I'm much more likely to respect them and listen and follow what it is that they're asking me to do. However, if someone doesn't speak gently, maybe they're shouting at me or seem really angry and aggressive, then I'm going to get scared and I'm not going to want to work with that person. I'm not really going to want to listen to them. The Bible talks about something similar. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 1 says this: "A gentle answer will calm a person's anger, but an unkind answer will cause more anger." Verse 4, "As a tree gives us fruit, healing, gentle words give us life." So I think for me, gentleness is a really important quality.
So I have a challenge for you today to help you think about being gentle. You can do this at home, although you might like to get a friend somewhere else or someone you live with to do the challenge at the same time as you, because that would just make it a little bit more interesting. You need to ask one of the adults that you live with if you can have one fresh egg. Then you need to very carefully see if you can write your name on the egg. This is particularly important if you're doing it with someone else in the same house to make sure you don't get your eggs muddled up. After you've written your name on it, you can take a sealable plastic bag and put the egg inside very gently. Do the bag up and then you're all ready to start. What you need to do is hold this egg in the bag in your hand for 2 hours while you go about whatever you'd normally be doing. I thought I'd be really bad at this challenge when I tried it because I'm quite clumsy. But I found that I could cook a meal and eat it with my family. I typed a couple of emails. I even managed to pick up my son's pet rabbit and give her a stroke. The only problem was when I washed my hands afterwards, the bag got a bit wet and a bit soapy. But that was okay because I could wash it off and the bag's waterproof. And while you carry this egg around, think about how you treat other people. Are you sometimes a bit rough with other people or a bit rude? Or do you respect them? What would happen if one of your friends was upset? Would you be gentle and ask them how they were doing and listen to them? Or would you maybe be too busy to take the time to ask them if they were okay? Sometimes people can be a bit like eggs, a bit fragile. We don't always all feel great all of the time. And when we're upset or scared, we need people to treat us gently. So after 2 hours, you can have a look at the egg, take it out the bag, and see if there's any damage to it. You might want to be careful if you have broken it at this stage and maybe just put it straight in the bin. But if your egg is all right and you've been treating it really gently, you might want to cook it and eat it. So let's just take a moment to think about how we can be more gentle. Do you remember those words Ellie said earlier? That a gentle answer will calm a person's anger. And healing and gentle words give us life. Let's think about how we can work those things out in our own lives. I'm going to say a prayer. Prayer is very simple. It's just talking to God. And if you want to agree with me, you can say Amen at the end, because Amen means I agree. And if you don't want to join in, that's absolutely fine. Loving God, we thank you for the way you spoke so gently to Elijah when he was exhausted and upset and felt that everyone else was out to get him. We're sorry for the times when we haven't been very kind and gentle with other people, and maybe we've hurt their feelings. Please will you help us to be more gentle and caring. And if you agree, you can say Amen. Thank you very much for watching today. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to know whether you're watching on your own at home in Southampton, whether you're watching in your classes and which school you're from, or maybe you're watching from some other far-flung place around the world. You can email us at schools@southamptoncitymission.org. thoughts3.co.uk. We'd also like to hear how you got on with your challenge and what happened to your eggs. We'll be back again next week with another Thoughts at 3 online assembly, available to watch from Monday the 30th of November at 3 p.m. And because Christmas is only just over a month away, next week's assembly will be all about Advent. We hope to see you then. Till then, have a good week. God bless. Bye.